Welcome to Architects of Latino Success. I'm your host, Joe Castillo. And today's guest is someone I am proud to call a good friend, Camilo Escalante, the head of diversity markets at RATE. Camilo is a force. He's helped transform the way his company serves our community, leading the creation of the first ever full Spanish language mortgage application in the industry. But what makes his story even more powerful is where it started. As an immigrant, Camilo knows firsthand the challenges our community faces, and he's used that perspective to build bridges, break barriers, and inspire others to think bigger. He credits NAHREP with expanding his vision, and he's paid it forward ever since. Ready to get started? Vamos. All right, everyone, thank you for joining us for Architects of Latino Success, a podcast hosted by me, Joe Castillo. I'm excited to have powerhouse guest Camilo Escalante with us. Thank you for joining us, Camilo.
Thank you, everybody.
Camilo is the VP of Diversity Markets for RATE. And I know we've all heard you come up on stage and speak about RATE and its partnership with NAHREP. But we're going to dig a little deeper today during this interview. So I'm excited and thankful that you're willing to join us.
No, yeah, thank you, Joe, and everybody for being here. I'm looking around and I love this familia concept because everybody's starting to feel like family here for a long time now with NAHREP. And, you know, I've been with NAHREP now for like almost 12 years now. It's desde que era jovencito. Right? Yeah, but
we started when you were 12.
Yeah, and you're making friends and you get to know people. So, I think with Joe and Corinne, reached out about the opportunity. I said, well, let's have a real conversation. And, typically, like you said, I walk on and I have my RATE hat. But one of the things we always talked about when we were in the Chicago board was you can represent a company out there. You can have that jersey, but when you come here on this NAHREP board, you put on the NAHREP hat.
That's right.
So right now I got the NAHREP hat on, okay? That's how we're gonna have this combo.
All right, perfect. So let's get started with just how you got started in real estate and what drew you to NAHREP specifically.
Okay, I said I was gonna keep it real here today. So 2004, I found myself working for Kraft Foods after college in Mississippi. And I was in Mississippi working for Kraft Foods, and it was a great job out of school back then, but I was working sales, and even if when you're in corporate sales, you could do well, but it doesn't mean your paycheck gets any bigger. And I'm an immigrant. I came here when I was 10 years old in 1989, and as an immigrant, oldest kid, I was really scared of being broke. I wanted to make money. I had, college debt. And my mom was in Chicago and she was talking about, hey, there is a lot of folks here that need bilingual loan officers. It's a great career. Real estate was booming 2004. She's like, come on, vete para arriba. And I, between Mississippi and Chicago, I wanted to get back. I wanted to get back to Chicago. So, I came back and I started using, the fact that I was bilingual. There was a huge demand. And, I'd like to say, when you hear people sometimes be like, well, why are you in real estate? It's like, because quiero ayudar a mi gente, I wanted to do well. 25 years old, I wanted to make money. I got into real estate because I wanted to make money. I wanted to pay off my debt. And I saw a career where I could have flexibility.
But how did that then transition and drive you into NAHREP? What got you into NAHREP?
So it wasn't for a while. I mean, being honest, at first, the idea of NAHREP didn't jive with me because when I came to this country, I grew up in the suburbs, northern suburbs of Chicago. My mom moved us there so I could go to the best school in the state. I was a token Latino the whole time. And, I kind of had some prejudice within my mind about the Latino community in Chicago. And, I always felt like the Latinos only hung out with Latinos. And I was like, I'm different. I hang out with everybody, And so when I was doing business, when I first came in, I remember I was like, I don't just want to be the Latino lender. I want to do loans for everybody. And so NAHREP just felt for me externally like an organization that was like, oh, is this Latinos doing business with Latinos? And I was like, I'm beyond that. And it wasn't until my boss at the time encouraged me to go to an event, and I started learning a little bit more about the approach of it. Yes, it is Latinos, successful Latinos coming together to not be victims, but be proactive and be successful and do business with each other and elevate each other. And now I'm all about that. And that reminded me a lot of the Jewish community that I grew up with in the northern suburbs. And I, look at that community as a good model as far as keeping circulating dollars within themselves and within the community and helping each other out. And NAHREP has that. And so that attracted me, and then I was all in.
Yeah, I could definitely understand that. And we got to know each other through NAHREP, of course, locally in the Chicago market.
You were a mentor and you were a leader, continue to be. And so,
Thank you. It's one of those things that when we got to know each other and I saw that energy and we had that, you reached out and made an appointment so that we could have a one-on-one conversation. It was something that was
at your office.
That's right. Yeah. It stood out to me that you were someone that when you had a conviction, when you thought of something and you really wanted to go after something, you really did. I mean, and so that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was just, your commitment to NAHREP. And so what did that look like for you once you started becoming more involved locally? What were some of the bigger challenges or favorite memories or some of the best accomplishments that you can remember within your leadership roles at NAHREP?
So, I think that obviously I was a top producer and I didn't want to come in and make other people feel like I was there to get business. I was doing business outside of the state. And so I actually wanted, because at the company I worked at, we did some commercial loans. I told the board, I was like, hey, I'm going to do commercial loans in this space because I was doing residential loans with my developers all over the country. And I didn't want to seem like I was there to get business, right? Because I wanted to help. And, but I don't think that was the right thing. I think you should be. Looking back at it, I think it's okay to be in the board and say, hey, I'm here to connect. I'm here to do business. That's something that I would have done different, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I came in with an idea of kind of understanding how housing was happening in the city. And I wanted to, look at how I could use NAHREP to help us network and understand with the alderman zoning and things like that. And so I was very, gravitating towards that component. But the first thing I did was I was education director. So any education directors here? Right there, yeah. It was just about having really good events, really good content. I wanted to educate our community. So some of the best successes we had really great events. Like we at that time, the Chicago chapter was having 500 people come to the conferences, the chapter conferences, and we would have a packed house from the morning, and we would have professional development as far as speaking and things that you could learn to be a better professional, and then industry components, and then we brought in aldermen and big power players from the city, and I was really proud of the education component. And then one lesson was when my time came to be president, I didn't get to run for president, and I ran. I lost. I actually lost. I didn't get to be president for NAHREP Chicago.
That's how strong NAHREP Chicago is, right? Camilo didn't make it as president at the local chapter.
I did not make it as president, but it's part of what I think is the politics of the chapters, and I think it's okay. I don't think it's a thing where I was definitely upset about it at the beginning, but I immediately, we had a great leader with Norena who had started and was kind of taking the torch on the government affairs side.
That's right, advocacy. Yeah.
And then the advocacy. And so I was like, hey, I'd love to help with that component. And so I was one of the first, if not the first, government affairs director, and helped her kind of write the book. And we were going back and forth on ideas, and her and Jamie, and it was just cool to be a part of that beginning. So I didn't get to be, president, but I was at the beginning of that effort of the government affairs, and I was a government affairs director, and that was, awesome as well. So I think sometimes things don't work out the way you plan, but you make the best of the things that do, for you, and you find your path, and then you go down that route. And I served my term afterwards, and was the best government affairs director I could be, and and then I after that, like, I had been on the board for a couple of years, and my time was up because I was looking to do other things, and then the board was like, hey, maybe you should run again, and I was like, ya pasó la hora, ya no fue, pero bueno,
I think that that's one of the things that we talk a lot about the local chapter experience for so many of us is like a leadership training course, right?
Yes.
You are in a group of highly successful individuals, and so you learn how to manage other successful people, and at the same time, even though the opportunity you expected at the beginning didn't show up for you, that's a great thing about NAHREP is other opportunities show up
Yep.
that are available to you to show off and really show your leadership skills. And for me, I've always thought of you as a leader, so it was great for me to see your growth within NAHREP at the local chapter, and then of course at the more national level with the advocacy group. And so I guess that kind of leads me to the next question, which is, how do you approach leadership, and what advice do you provide to our future leaders here, whether in the audience or listening?
I'm going to do a lot of practice. I didn't get that question prior to hand. I knew we were going to talk a little bit about leadership, but
how do you approach it?
The approach to leadership, I think you have to do some self-reflection and understand what type of leader you want to be, because there's different types. And I'm not saying one's wrong or not. I think some people that I've looked up to are authoritative. And so they want to, everybody below does what they say, right? And it's like my way, and this is the way because I know best. And
Are you thinking about your mom, or was it?
yeah, I am. Yeah. But it's authoritative style. And I think it's a little old school. But I think it could be very effective, and I think some people are like that. I think of, and you also have to know your skill set. So I have vision. I know that. I know I have vision. I have really good ideas. But, what one of my high school teachers used to say, ideas are like assholes. Everyone has one and they stink. Like this is the family, right? So he was like, an idea isn't anything without the execution.
That's right.
So, you can have ideas, and it's like, okay, how are we going to execute? And when we're talking about leadership, some leaders want to have the idea and they're good at the execution as well. I'm okay at the execution, honestly. That's not where I excel. I can do it, but having known myself in different roles and everything, what I'm really good at is inspiring and motivating other people to execute. So I have a vision, and then I hire people to help me execute, or partner up with people to help me execute in the execution phase. And sometimes every time things have worked out, it's been even bigger and better than I thought, because I have people that I'm partnered up with that are doing things and make it their own, and it goes bigger than I ever thought it could be. And so we're doing more. And so, and I continue to inspire and motivate people to, believe in the vision through the challenges and that come up anytime you're approaching anything. So my approach is to make sure that I have a clear path and vision for people, and to make sure that the people that I surround myself with on that journey are aligned with that vision and passion. And I don't want people just to look at things that are just like, oh, I'm here to work,
So, I mean, but how do you do that? Like, you're talking about motivating people. You're talking about making sure people are aware of your mission or your plan or your idea. So how do you do that? How do you keep your team motivated? How do you make it clear to them what the end goal is? Like, how do you do that?
I think you have to make time to really connect with people on a one-on-one basis. And so, when you are, I'll give you an example to talk specifics, at Rate, we were looking to basically innovate the industry and bring in something that had never been delivered before, our language access program. For 20 years that I was in the industry, everybody said it was impossible. Compliance departments were saying, no, you can't do it because the technology, the paperwork, it's illegal, literally illegal. All the major recs, you can't do it. It's not being able to be done. And I was like, wait a second, I think it can be done, but it took a lot of one-on-one conversations with compliance, technology, marketing, every single person to get real executive buy-in. So it's like, a vision takes time. And then, that's one component of an example. Another way would be when we were raising capital for the Remova, right? And we had this task of this new project in the South Side that had never existed, that hadn't happened. And, to have something that big in the South Side of Chicago was a big deal. And we went out and talked to about 500 investors that we thought were high net worth that could potentially invest in it. But think about that, over 2 years, I was having conversations with high net worth individuals that could potentially give us about $100,000 on an average investment, was what it ended up coming out being, 49 investors. And that took a lot of time. It's like you're talking to people, you're spending. So time is the thing. No matter what you're doing, you have to take the time to meet with people, to get them to buy in. And I think that's really the key.
So as long as I've known you, I feel like you've always been growing. And not necessarily just looking for the next thing, but just always growing, and whether that's personally or professionally. And so I just kind of want to get your input as to, how do you do that? How do you stay motivated? How do you continue pushing yourself? Because you were a top producing loan officer, you were in the top 250, yet you moved from that type of income to a salaried corporate position. I mean, that's a huge, huge change. And so you saw the end goal, right? I mean, there was an end goal to that. So kind of talk to us about how do you keep yourself motivated to continue growing like that?
So first
taking
of all,
those risks.
Joe, thank you for the compliment, because I think that's a really awesome compliment.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah. I think evolving is really important. And I remember when I was in college, I read a little Confucianism, and there is a concept of within, WVN, and it's like the concept of always growing, always learning, to be cultured, and it doesn't end. So, knowledge doesn't end. And so I never got the tattoo that I thought I was going to get, because I felt like I was always going to that, grow, and maybe I wouldn't like it, right? But I don't want to be the person I was 10 years ago. I don't want to be the person I was 20 years ago. I'm looking to evolve, right? And so I'm conscious of that, right? But when I was a top producer, and just again, being honest about my career, I did a lot of self-reflection, and that has helped me understand and align what really is important to me, both professionally, economically, and I felt that I got to that level because I was looking to make money, which was accurate. I got into the business to make money. And then I was like, wait a second, I want to help and make impact. So where can I go to make the most impact? And I had made good decisions as far as investing and things like that. So I didn't have to make my next decision based on where can I go make the most money. I was thinking about, okay, where can I make the biggest impact and the most impact? And I took on a challenge that, sometimes when people take on roles like that I have, executive director of diverse segments. Those are token roles typically at big banks. And no offense to the folks that are at the big banks, but what I mean by that is it's a company that they put somebody out there, and then they don't really put any oomph behind the position. Cost centers, the ability to cut a check, hire people, invest in marketing. It's like they go out and speak on, hey, we want the African American market, we want the Latino community, but then they go back and they're like, they can't hire anybody, right? They can't really put anything in motion. They can't really put any marketing. So I was very aware that I had to come in and build that level of.
Well, negotiated it before you even got in, right?
Yeah, and the way that I did it, I didn't come in and was like, from day one, the position was the way it is today. I came in, got my foot in the door. Within the first year, got all the executives to buy in, and then renegotiated everything to the way that I wanted it. So me metí.
Once you were in, man.
Yeah.
No, that's terrific. And I guess it leads me to also, you talk about evolving and what have you. I mean, we got a couple questions here that are kind of fun, I think, to kind of get your input in and hear what you have to say. But the first one is really, if you were to write a book, and I do truly believe at some point you will be writing a book, what would the title be for that book, and what would be the central theme that people would get from after reading it?
Oh, geez. If I were to write a book,
Was it evolve or die or something like that? Like, what are we talking?
Sin miedo al éxito. Échale ganas. Sin miedo al éxito, con todas las ganas. You know, you got to have ganas. You got to just get, you know, to what Jonah's point was talking about, right? You got to risk it. You have to put it out there. I mean, sometimes, you know, we put in a lot of money into the Remova, into our project that Joe and I worked on. And, you know, for a long time, you're like, oh, well, but if it goes well, it'll be awesome, right? But we're making an impact. You know, I could have failed in this role. Some people were telling me like, hey, don't do that.
Yeah.
You already built a business.
Relationships.
Yeah, like don't do it. But I was like, man, I'm passionate about it. So you can't have fear if you want to do big things.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's terrific. I just want to go back real quick, just in regards to the evolving part and making changes. Like, how do you go about making that decision? Is it something where you set aside a week of your time to get away from things, to kind of learn and think within yourself? I mean, how do you go about making those big decisions for your career, for your life?
So I hope you guys have done this, but I think, you know, the younger generation calls it meditation and, you know, mental health or something like that, right? I just call it like sitting in the shower, you know, crying sometimes with the water. No, I'm just kidding. You know, but for me, I really took some time to think about concepts in life. Like, and it sounds a little corny, but it's legit what I did. Like, so to me, it was like, what is family? How do you define family? How do you define the act of being a good family member? And then that started shaping my decisions because I want to be a good family member. And then I started thinking about what is love? How do I show love? How do I actually do that, right? And so, it's, you know, things about like what is living and, you know, what is the act of living, the decisions that I make. And just to give you guys an example, when I think about what is life, to me, life is the totality of the decisions that you make and the relationships that you foster. It's the totality of the decisions that you make. You make those decisions and the relationships that you foster, the people you surround yourself with. So I'm not spending a lot of time, you know, making excuses or feeling sorry for myself, because if I don't like something, I make a decision and I change it. I don't waste time being like, oh, you know, it's like, no, okay, that didn't work out, that didn't go my way. Okay, boom, let's make a decision. Let's go, let's move on. And then, you know, if somebody's kind of negative and they're whack, well, bye, like get out of my circle, you know, like it's just, you surround yourself with good people. So it's really about taking time to think about concepts that align with who you are.
That's awesome. So we might have touched on this or not, but like, you know, what belief or habit do you hold that most people would find unconventional, okay, that you think has made the biggest difference in your success?
Ooh. Unconventional habit. Well, I like Doritos and hot sauce, but no, but well, maybe along the lines of just being open. You know, it's not reading, but it's. I like.
I mean, is it just being open to risk? I guess, you know. I mean, to trusting in yourself. I mean,
I don't. The word unconventional there is. I mean, I think it's, you know, the things. I'd have to think about what is it that I do that is unconventional, that I think is part that I would attribute to my success. But I mean, I can tell you some things that, you know, that I do, yeah, and I think reading is important, obviously, but I don't necessarily read like go to how to be a better person all the time, like self books, just like novels. You know, I like fiction, I like novels, I like to just kind of escape. It's like, you know, mental health, and then I love sports. You know, I think it's a good like outlet to where I'm snowboarding. I guess, you know, unconventional along those lines. I'm not afraid to try absolutely different things. I'm really open to trying anything, right? And so I think that happened because I grew up in, you know, like literally the only Latino in like a high school of 5,000 people. And I've, you know, that kind of, I don't feel uncomfortable. Things that make other people feel uncomfortable don't make me feel uncomfortable. And so I'm always open to meet someone, talk to someone. I don't really, when it comes into politics, I don't go, left, right. I'm like, where's the middle? You know, I try to talk to everybody. And so I think that's worked out really well for me in my career.
All right, Camilo. Well, listen, thank you.
Muchas gracias,
Thank you.
amigo. Yeah.